Your mind is your only true possession. Lose it, and you lose yourself. Control it, and you control everything. Your mind is the one domain no one can take from you. It is the fortress within, the space where every thought, every decision, every interpretation of the world is born. Marcus Aurelius understood this truth deeply, and it became the foundation of his strength as both a man and an emperor. Think about it. We don't always control the events of life, job losses, illness, betrayal, the chaos of the world. Yet we always have control over one thing: how we choose to interpret and respond to these events. This is why Marcus wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Consider a modern example. Imagine two people facing the same challenge, say, being laid off from work. One falls into despair, replaying fears of financial ruin, doubting their worth. The other, though shaken, reminds themselves, "I still have my skills, my character, my ability to take action." The event is identical, yet the experience is radically different. What made the difference? Not the layoff itself, but the way each mind framed it. This is the essence of mind control in Stoicism, to recognize that suffering is not in the event but in the judgment we attach to it. Marcus urged himself daily to filter his thoughts, to question whether they were useful, rational, and aligned with virtue. He knew that the mind, left unchecked, could be a tyrant whispering fear, resentment, envy. But disciplined, it could be a guide to freedom. Have you ever noticed how a single anxious thought can color your entire day? Just pause. If one thought can have that much power, imagine what happens when you learn to train your entire mental landscape. This is where the journey begins, by realizing that your mind is not just a mirror reflecting life, but the very engine shaping it. Marcus knew this truth well. That's why he wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." At first, it may sound like a motivational slogan, the kind you might scroll past online, but for Marcus, these words were not theory, they were survival. Picture his reality. He was not just a philosopher writing in peace. He was the emperor of Rome, responsible for millions of lives. He faced wars on distant borders, outbreaks of plague in the streets, and constant political schemes in the palace. Friends betrayed him. Family members died. Every day he woke to problems no one could fully solve. And yet, amid all of this, he insisted that happiness came not from victory, wealth, or comfort, but from the quality of one's thoughts. Why would a man with absolute power write such a thing? Because he discovered that power over others means little if you lack power over yourself. If your mind collapses under fear, anger, or despair, then no throne, no army, no fortune can save you. But if your mind remains steady, if your thoughts are disciplined and guided by reason, then even the heaviest burdens can be carried with dignity. Think about how this applies today. Many of us assume happiness will come from external achievements, a promotion, a bigger home, the admiration of others. But as Marcus realized, these things are fragile. Promotions can be lost, houses can crumble, admiration can fade. If our peace depends on them, then our happiness is built on sand. But if it depends on the quality of our thoughts, then we carry stability wherever we go. This is why Marcus returned to his journal each night, writing reminders to himself. Meditations was not written for us, it was his own training ground. Each page was a way to discipline his mind, to strengthen his inner fortress. For Marcus, controlling the mind was not an abstract idea. It was the shield that allowed him to endure chaos without being destroyed by it. Marcus understood this better than anyone. Without discipline, the mind itself becomes the true enemy. He saw that chaos outside can harm the body, but chaos inside destroys the soul. Think of how quickly thoughts spiral. One text goes unanswered. The mind whispers, "They're ignoring you." A project gets delayed. Suddenly it's, "I'm failing. Then I always fail. Then what if I lose everything?" Nothing outside changed, only the story did. As the Stoics taught, it isn't events that disturb us, but the judgments we attach to them. When the inner commentary runs wild, suffering multiplies. Here's a modern scene. Jenna is driving to work on I-405. Traffic stalls, calendar packed, Slack pings won't stop. Her manager's short message lands. "We need to talk at 4. The chaotic mind writes a story. "I'm in trouble. I'll be fired. I can't handle this." Her body tightens, breathing shallows. She snaps at a colleague, and the day unravels. But there's another path. Same message. New appraisal. It could be feedback I can use. I'll prepare a clear status and questions. Her shoulders drop, breath steadies. She uses the next hour to get organized. The external event didn't change. Her inner framing did, and with it, her entire day. This is the pattern. The chaotic mind catastrophizes, reads minds, and treats guesses as facts. It confuses feelings with truths. Stoic training begins by catching those moves in real time, naming them, then replacing them with judgments grounded in evidence and virtue. Ask, what exactly happened? What part is opinion? What's in my control right now? Try a drill. When a sharp emotion hits, pause for 1 breath, 4 in, 6 out. Write a single sentence describing the event without adjectives. Manager scheduled a 4 p.m. meeting. Then write your judgment. I think I'm in trouble. Now test it. What evidence supports this? What evidence doesn't? If the mind keeps racing, redirect it into action. Outline 3 small steps you can take in the next 30 minutes. Action tames chaos. Have you felt this cascade before? Just pause. Control the mind and chaos loses its grip. But the mind cannot be guided until it is first observed. Before we can change a thought, we must learn to see it clearly. Most people live inside their thoughts without realizing it, like fish swimming in water but blind to the current that carries them. A single worry appears, then multiplies, then takes over the entire mood of the day. But the Stoics discovered a simple truth. Awareness itself creates distance. The moment you notice a thought, you are no longer fully trapped in it. Think of a common scene. You wake up at 2 a.m., heart racing, because tomorrow holds a difficult conversation at work. Your mind starts rehearsing worst-case outcomes: your boss disappointed, your career on the line, your reputation ruined. Each thought sparks another until sleep is gone. But pause here. If you can say to yourself, I am thinking anxious thoughts about tomorrow, the grip begins to loosen. You've stepped back from the storm. This is why Marcus Aurelius wrote his private notes each night. He wasn't writing for us, but for himself. By putting thoughts on paper, he forced them into the open where he could examine them. Is this true? Is it useful? Does it help me live with virtue? Journaling became his mirror, a way to catch the mind before it ran wild. You don't need to be an emperor to try the same practice. Set aside 5 minutes today. Write down a single thought that keeps circling in your head. Don't judge it yet, just observe it. Label it, this is worry, or this is anger, or this is envy. By naming it, you strip away some of its power. Have you ever noticed the relief that comes the moment you put a tangled feeling into words? Just pause. That act of observation is the first step of control, and without it, no discipline is possible. Observation is only the beginning. Once you see your thoughts clearly, the next challenge is to guard them, to protect the mind from being polluted by forces that don't deserve control over your life. Marcus reminded himself again and again, you have power over your mind, not over outside events. That sentence was more than philosophy, it was a shield. He knew that if he let his thoughts be shaped by gossip in the Senate, by fear from the battlefield, or by grief in his family, he would lose the only fortress he could truly defend his inner world. We face the same battle today, though our enemies look different. Open your phone in the morning, and you're flooded with headlines predicting disaster. Scroll through social media, and you see curated images of other people's perfect lives. Spend an hour in a toxic workplace, and you absorb complaints, rumors, and cynicism that aren't even yours. Without discipline, all of these voices slip past the gates of the mind and settle in as if they belong there. Think of Daniel, a young professional in New York. Each morning he scrolls Twitter before getting out of bed. Within 10 minutes, he's convinced the economy is collapsing, the world is falling apart, and everyone else is living a better life. He hasn't even started his day, and already his mind is heavy with fear and envy. But imagine a different approach. He decides to start with 5 minutes of journaling, instead naming his own priorities, choosing his own frame. Now when he steps into the day, he carries his own voice, not the noise of the crowd. Guarding the purity of the mind doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to hand over your most precious space to influences that distort it. You can't control the headlines. You can't stop people from posting. But you can choose which thoughts you admit, which ones you feed, and which ones you let fade away. Have you noticed how much lighter you feel when you cut even one source of negativity? Just pause. That lightness is proof. Purity of mind is strength. Protecting the mind is not a one-time act, it's a daily practice. Just as physical strength comes from repeated exercise, mental strength is built through constant training. Marcus understood this deeply. That's why in his journals he returned, day after day, to the same reminders. Hold on to reason, resist anger, choose virtue. He wasn't repeating himself because he forgot. He was repeating because discipline requires reinforcement. A single workout doesn't make you fit, and a single reminder doesn't secure the mind. It is the daily rhythm that matters. Think of how athletes train. No one expects to lift a heavy weight without first practicing with smaller ones, building consistency over time. The Stoic approach to mind control follows the same principle. Morning reflection and evening journaling became Marcus's training sessions. In the morning, he set intentions, reminding himself of the challenges he might face, the temptations of anger, pride, or fear, and the need to meet them with calm. At night, he reviewed his day, asking where he succeeded, where he stumbled, and how he could strengthen tomorrow. Imagine Sarah, a manager in Chicago. Her mornings often start in chaos, emails flooding in, kids rushing for school, meetings stacked. She used to react on autopilot, carrying stress into every decision. Then she began a simple practice. Before opening her inbox, she spent 5 minutes writing one guiding principle for the day. Stay calm in meetings, or listen before reacting. In the evening, she took 10 minutes to review. Did she live up to that principle? Where did she slip? Within weeks, she noticed her responses changing. The stress was still there, but her mind was steadier. Discipline in thinking is not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause or visible trophies, but it is the hidden training that shapes every choice, every word, every reaction. Like muscles growing slowly in the gym, the mind becomes stronger each time it is exercised with awareness. Have you ever felt the pride that comes after keeping calm in a situation where you once would have exploded? Just pause. That pride is proof your training is working. Protecting the mind is not a one-time act, it's a daily practice. Just as physical strength comes from repeated exercise, mental strength is built through constant training. Marcus understood this deeply. That's why in his journals he returned, day after day, to the same reminders. Hold on to reason, resist anger, choose virtue. He wasn't repeating himself because he forgot. He was repeating because discipline requires reinforcement. A single workout doesn't make you fit, and a single reminder doesn't secure the mind. It is the daily rhythm that matters. Think of how athletes train. No one expects to lift a heavy weight without first practicing with smaller ones, building consistency over time. The Stoic approach to mind control follows the same principle. Morning reflection and evening journaling became Marcus's training sessions. In the morning, he set intentions, reminding himself of the challenges he might face, the temptations of anger, pride, or fear, and the need to meet them with calm. At night, he reviewed his day, asking where he succeeded, where he stumbled. Sarah, a manager in Chicago, used to begin her mornings in chaos emails, kids, endless meetings. Stress controlled her. Then she tried a simple habit, writing one guiding principle each morning and reviewing it at night. Within weeks, she noticed her responses shift. The stress was still there, but her mind stayed steady. Discipline in thinking is not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause or visible trophies, but it is the hidden training that shapes every choice, every word, every reaction. Like muscles growing slowly in the gym, the mind becomes stronger each time it is exercised with awareness. Have you ever felt the pride that comes after keeping calm in a situation where you once would have exploded? Just pause. That pride is proof your training is working. Training the mind builds strength, but strength is tested most when we face illusions. Because often, it isn't reality that hurts us. It's the stories our minds invent. Think of how fear operates. A sound in the night, immediately the mind paints images of danger. A delay in someone's reply, suddenly, the mind imagines rejection. Before a doctor's appointment, the mind rehearses a dozen grim diagnoses. Nothing has happened yet, but the heart races, the stomach tightens, and we suffer as if disaster were already here. Marcus saw this pattern clearly. He reminded himself that much of what disturbs us exists only in imagination. The future is not yet written, yet the mind insists on suffering twice, once in anticipation and again if the event actually comes. He urged himself to ask, is this fear real or only a thought? What evidence do I have? Modern psychology calls this catastrophizing, but Marcus was already diagnosing it centuries ago. He knew the mind exaggerates threats, assumes the worst, and builds phantoms out of shadows. Left unchecked, these illusions can drain an entire life of peace. Picture standing at the edge of a stage before speaking to an audience. The illusion says, they'll laugh at me, I'll fail, I'll humiliate myself. Most people are too focused on themselves to judge you so harshly, or think of the fear before a tough conversation you may imagine shouting, anger, rejection. In truth, the outcome is often calmer than the rehearsal of dread. The Stoic practice is to shine reason on these illusions. Write the fear down, break it into parts, ask which of these is fact, which is fiction. Even naming it, this is just imagination, can rob it of its sting. Have you noticed how many sleepless nights come not from events, but from stories your mind invented? Just pause. When you fight illusions, you reclaim reality. Illusions lose power when tested against reality, but the real challenge is carrying this discipline into daily life. Stoic mind control is not a theory locked in books. It's a practice meant for the office, the home, and even the phone in your hand. Consider work. Deadlines close in, meetings pile up, and office drama spreads like wildfire. Without discipline, the mind latches onto stress. I'll never finish. They don't respect me. This will ruin my career. But if you pause and separate fact from judgment, the storm calms. The fact, a project is due Friday. The illusion, I can't handle it. Marcus would urge you to focus only on what is in your control, organizing tasks, seeking clarity, doing the next step. Drama loses its grip when your mind refuses to play along. Now think of family life. Arguments are inevitable between partners, parents, and children, even siblings. The chaotic mind turns disagreement into personal attack. They never listen. They don't care. I'm not valued. What if it's simply two people under stress, each struggling with their own burdens? Choosing calm words, slowing your tone, breathing before replying, these are acts of mind control that can turn conflict into connection. And then there is social media, the endless highlight reel. Scroll for 10 minutes and the illusions whisper, everyone else is happier, wealthier, more successful than me. But the Stoics would remind us, you see only appearances, never the full reality. Comparison poisons the mind. Control means asking, have you noticed how much lighter you feel when you respond instead of react? When you compare yourself only to your own values? Just pause. This is mind control alive in the modern world, practical, steady, freeing. Applying mind control in daily life does more than ease stress. It points to something greater, freedom. Because once the mind is steady, no outside force can enslave you. Think of how often people live as captives of circumstance. A boss's tone decides their mood. A stock market dip decides their sense of security. A friend's silence decides their worth. In truth, nothing outside has chains strong enough to bind the soul. What binds us are the judgments we allow to rule within. Marcus reminded himself that while fate could strip him of health, status, or even life, it could never strip the freedom of his own reasoned choice. That freedom was not political or physical, it was inner. He could choose how to respond, how to interpret, how to remain true to virtue. And as long as that choice remained, he was never a slave. Picture a prisoner in a cell, denied movement, denied comfort. One man collapses in despair because his body is confined. Another man, remembering his Stoic training, tells himself, my body may be trapped, but my mind remains free. Which man suffers more? Which man lives with dignity? In modern life, the prisons are often invisible. Anxiety about money, obsession with reputation, the constant need for approval, these bars are built in the mind. But when you learn to master thought, you unlock the cell from the inside. You no longer need the world to behave a certain way for you to be at peace. Peace travels with you. Have you ever tasted that kind of freedom, even for a moment? A calm breath before anger, a smile when plans collapse, a steady heart when others panic. Just pause. That is inner liberty, and it is the greatest freedom any human can know. Inner freedom is the destination, but the path is simple. Master your mind, and you master your life. That was Marcus Aurelius's message, written not as lofty philosophy, but as a daily survival guide. Every page of Meditations echoes the same truth. The outside world is uncertain, unstable, and often harsh. But the mind, trained and disciplined, becomes a place of calm no storm can reach. When thoughts are clear, judgments steady, and choices guided by virtue, you walk through chaos with dignity, and that is mastery. Think of what this means for you today. You may not be an emperor, but you face your own battles, deadlines, family struggles, doubts that whisper at night. Marcus's lesson is not about grand speeches or heroic acts. It is about small, consistent practices that reclaim your inner power. Start with one. Tonight before sleep, write a single line in a journal. What thought ruled me today? Tomorrow morning, set one intention. What kind of person do I want to be when challenges arrive? These simple acts are the training ground of mind control. And remember, the goal is not perfection. The goal is progress, a little more awareness, a little more calm, a little more freedom each day. Over time, the mind grows strong, steady, unshaken. Marcus once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Let that truth guide you tonight. The world may remain noisy, unpredictable, unfair, but within you lies a space no one can touch. Guard it, train it, live from it. That is where real freedom begins. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to the Stoic Room and like this video. It helps us share Stoic wisdom with more seekers like you. Take a deep breath now. Carry calm into whatever comes next. And remember the spirit of the Stoic Room. Be calm, be strong, be steady in every storm.